Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
hello, Mr. Harris.
Russ.
Russ. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it actually Russell or is it Russ?
Yeah, it's Russ is short for Russell, but I'm not really keen on Russell. The only person who ever called me Russell really was my mother, and usually when she was annoyed with me, she'd go, Russell, Russell, I told you before, Russell. So I prefer Russ.
Yeah, okay. How old are you?
Oh gosh, how old am I biologically or mentally is the question.
Biologically.
Mentally, I think I'm still a teenager. Biologically, I am 58.
Huh?
Oh my God. Gosh, the where it's
Yeah,
going too fast.
yeah.
Stop. At
I'm
the clock.
62.
Yes.
Okay. Will you start, Anna?
Yes. Uh, I read the book, and in the last chapter that you are saying use act in your own life. And I wonder, could you say a bit about how you have used act in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of anxiety, especially social anxiety. And earlier in my life, I didn't handle it very well. As a teenager and in my 20s, I used to drink alcohol very heavily, which, is not necessarily a bad thing when you're at university, but it's not so good afterwards. Or if I wasn't drinking alcohol, I would just avoid socializing and just kind of be a recluse and hide away. Um, and I still have high levels of social anxiety today, but I can now kind of open up and make room for it and let it flow through me and focus on the conversation and stay engaged and do the things that are meaningful for me rather than hiding away from. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I am an introvert, and so I do like time to myself, but I can also socialize when I need to, and I don't have to use alcohol anymore. So that's probably the biggest thing that I use it for. But I mean also just on a day-to-day basis, just being mindful in little ways to enjoy food and music and going out for walks and playing with the dog, all those little moments through the day. And self-compassion really. I've got a pretty harsh inner critic that's quick to judge and criticize. And I find that self-compassion is a good antidote for that. So uh, I think, I think probably the one thing that I use most of ACT overall in my life would just be values. When I'm just doing those tedious or difficult things, and I just kind of come back to, well, what are the values underneath this? And there's there's still tedious, difficult things, but when you can kind of link them to your values when you can make the connection that I hate doing this tax return, but this is in the service of looking after my family. Somehow it's just a little bit easier to do those things. There's a bit more meaning behind them. Uh, I mean, I can't imagine life without ACT, really. It's just become so intrinsic to who I am and how I live. And my teenager, I have one son. He's 19 now. He's just started university, but he got into ACT in his late teens, and he sets me straight. You know, when I'm yelling at him or being difficult, he goes, "That's not very ACT, Dad." And I'm like, you, you.
It's quite interesting because we have been discussing values lately.
Yeah.
And how do you formulate them? Do you formulate them as rules or summary labels, or what are you telling yourself when you're orienting towards values?
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends on the situation, but the certainly my son's really, he's turned into a lovely young man, but he went through several years where he was just a really hellish teenager. And I think he watched all the TikTok videos on how to be a difficult teenager, and then decided to, practice them on me. And and I found that a useful. I had a little values mantra that I would just kind of repeat to myself, to get through those difficult times, which was just kind, gentle persistence. And I would just kind of say it to myself, kind, gentle persistence. And that would often, help. Not always. At times where I had complete meltdowns and forgot all about ACT and just turned into a sort of Neanderthal man, but a lot of the time that just having a little mantra, um, you know, um, I think there are like one thing that I'm finding very hard in my life at the moment is I'm trying to write a novel, and it's very hard, and I keep giving up, and then I keep coming back to it. But what helps me to tune into my values there is I've got a little Word document that I can boot up, and it kind of reminds me what are my values around writing this novel, and so if I kind of read that through, this is about creativity, it's about challenging yourself, it's about learning and curiosity, and hopefully having some fun as well along the way, although it's mostly hard work, if not a lot of fun. And reading that through often helps motivate me to do the hard yakka. So the problem is I've been writing self-help books and textbooks for so long. My brain now just thinks in a very sort of logical way. I'm used to taking technical, terms and language and simplifying it in ways that people can understand. And so trying to use my brain in a more creative way and come up with interesting use of language is quite hard. I'm having to lay down a lot of new neural pathways, and the old ones keep firing up. So,
in book club, we have actually a lot of some people trained in behavior analysis. Do you think it's important to know the concepts, or could you read your book without knowing the concepts from behavior analysis?
I don't think you have to know them, but I think it's even a little bit of knowledge can make a big difference. I think certainly for therapists and coaches and counselors, anyone that's practicing ACT with mental health issues, I think even just knowing how to do a functional analysis of a behavior, what triggers the behavior, what reinforces the behavior, just being able to do that can make a massive difference to your work. It's one of the most powerful tools there. So you can actually learn to do that without knowing the technical language. You can learn, all right, so what are the triggers, and what are the payoffs? So, in the English language version of my best known self-help book, The Happiness Trap, in the new edition of that, there is a functional analysis of behavior. It teaches people how to do that, what's triggering it, what your payoffs are, without using any of the language of behavior analysis. I think the answer is yes, it's very useful. You don't necessarily have to know the technical terms and all the technicalities, but I think it's helpful. I would encourage anybody to, learn a bit about it.
The last article I read about therapies, I think it was by Alan Kestin. He mentions that there is probably 500 different therapies around.
Wow.
So why should people read ACT?
Because it's the best one. It's the best one. Um, it's interesting. I mean, one reason is because of the evidence base. I I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong. You may know better than me, but I believe that out of all the different models of therapy, traditional CBT has the largest evidence base, and ACT has the second largest. So if that's correct, then that's quite impressive, and the data for ACT is just snowballing. I mean, there's now over 1,300 randomized controlled trials on ACT and thousands of other studies. So that's one thing. Um, I think one of the things that attracts and certainly attracted me to ACT is how you find it personally for yourself. I think. I don't think anyone can make the claim that the evidence for ACT shows that it is superior to traditional CBT. But in terms of applying it to my own life and applying it to myself, I mean, I did CBT for years before ACT, and I found ACT really resonated with me, these ideas of living my values and self-compassion and engaging. And I find it very hard to challenge and dispute thoughts and stuff like that. I find it much easier to kind of notice them and name them and unhook from them. So I I would be interested my sense is that therapists tend to gravitate to the model that resonates best for them, that's certainly true for me. And I think one of the things that I love about running ACT trainings and ACT workshops is that they're not just training workshops, they're also personal growth workshops. Participants report again and again how useful it was personally. And I haven't really ever experienced that. I've trained in quite a few different models and done workshops in different models, and I've never really experienced that in the same way that I did with ACT. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you. For the next book club session, we are reading chapter 5 in the Norwegian edition, and it's about how to start the therapy.
Right.
Yeah. What would you say about that? How do you start with your clients? Would you say, hi, Russ? Or
Hi, come on in.
yeah,
I always offer them, a cup of tea or coffee or a glass of water, all that kind of thing. I think that's quite a nice thing to do, but it's not always possible for people to do that. I think, in the book and in my workshops, I emphasize that the single most common problem I find in supervision is that people have not really established behavioral goals for therapy. And because ACT is a behavioral model and it is based on behavior analysis, it's so important to establish those behavioral goals up front. And just on your first session, asking those questions, if our work here is successful, what will you be doing differently? What will you start doing? What will you stop doing? What will you do more of? What will you do less of? How will you treat your body, your dog, your cat, your friends, your neighbors, the world around you? What kind of things will you get back to or approach that you've been staying away from or avoiding? A very useful question is, what would other people notice different about you? Because the client will say, oh, I'll just be feeling happy. I'll just be feeling good. I won't be feeling depressed anymore. Okay, so what will other people notice you saying and doing differently? What will your children notice? What will the people at work notice? What will your partner notice? And so really kind of establishing those overt behavioral changes makes a very powerful difference. Now, some clients will just say, I don't know, or they'll just say, I'll just be feeling differently. I'm already doing everything that I want to do. I'll just be feeling differently. So even there, we can establish a behavioral goal. It's like, okay, so there are difficult thoughts and feelings showing up for you that you don't like, you don't want, you're struggling with. So how about we make our work here learning new skills to handle those difficult thoughts and feelings more effectively, learning how to take the power out of them and take the impact out of them so they can't keep jerking you around. And so I refer to that as the catch-all behavioral goal, learning new skills to handle difficult thoughts and feelings more effectively. That's a behavioral goal you can use with any client. and that immediately kind of then pulls you into or opens the doors to act. If the problem that I see in supervision so often is the client comes in and they talk about their suffering and their problems, and the therapist just starts trying to do therapy, but there's no agreement on what the goals are, or they agree to something really abstract like building high self-esteem. Well, what does that mean? How do you know when you've got it? So, all the usual stuff about building rapport and a Rogerian stance and so forth. But if there was one thing that I would really emphasize, it's take the time to establish behavioral goals for therapy.
Thank you. Do you have any more questions, Anna?
Just you are coming to Scandinavia in May, I know.
I am, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe you want to say a little bit about the workshops, because maybe some in the reading book club want to come.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be in Iceland, Finland, Denmark, and Sweden in May. So, you know, uh, I'm looking forward to it. Get away from the heat of Australia. Let me get somewhere cold, please. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, if some of your folks want to come along to your neighboring countries, that would be nice. Yeah. Maybe one day I can do a workshop in Norway. I've never been to Norway. It'd be kind of is it an exciting place to visit? Would you recommend it?
Yes, of course.
Of course.
Maybe next year or the year after.
Yeah, I'd love to. Love to.
How is your schedule? Are you busy?
I'm busy this year. I haven't really started scheduling for next year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, but yeah, if you're serious about it, yeah,
Yeah,
that'd
yeah,
be
yeah.
nice. Lovely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time,
Yeah.
Russ.
Thank you. And,
Nice to meet you.
thank you to all the people in the book club. And again, folks, if you're watching this video, you should know that I made it very hard for Anna and Jon. I kind of cancelled 2 times. Well, one time I forgot, and the other time I cancelled. And so, thank you for your persistence in hanging in there.
Thank you
So,
very much. Good luck with
yeah.
your novel.
All right. Cheers.
Mm.
Thank you. Take care. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.